back to the channel and welcome back to a very miserable and wet Cumbria today. This is the latest in my series of videos about how to pass an advanced driving test, and in this video we're going to look at two essential elements: observations and planning. They're directly linked together, are observations and planning. And let's start with the system of car control. The system of car control has 5 phases: information, position, speed, gear and acceleration. And observations and planning are the most essential elements of the information phase. We'll look at information on it. So remember, information runs throughout the system. It's a continual ongoing process all the time that you're driving the car. And there's 3 things that we do with information. We take information, we use information, and we give information. Take, use and give, tug, we give it a tug. And the first 2 elements that are taking information, in other words, observations, and using information to formulate a plan. I've said this before in other videos, the most essential thing that I am looking for as an examiner when I'm testing somebody at the end of an advanced driving course is an ability to make driving plans. Planning is the biggest difference between people who've had some additional driver training and most of the other drivers out there on the road who haven't had additional driver training. Planning is the thing that makes all the difference. Let's just try and remember what advanced driving is all about. Yes, it's better driving, yes, it's better car control, it's smoother car control, it's better overtaking and cornering and all the stuff that we enjoy doing, but essentially it's better in terms of reducing your risk of having an accident. And how do we reduce the risk of having an accident? Well, what you're trying to do above everything else is reduce the amount of times that you are relying on your reactions. You shouldn't have to rely on your reactions when you're driving. I quite often ask motoring groups or clubs, what makes a good driver? You tell me what makes a good driver. And one of the things that often comes up in the conversation is quick reactions. And it isn't the case. If quick reactions made you a better driver, then all the 17 and 18-year-old drivers out there would have the lowest insurance premiums. Because at that age, you've got the quickest reactions you're going to have throughout your life. But it doesn't make you a good driver. And if you end up relying on your reactions all the time, at some point you'll get it wrong. What does make you a better driver is the experience and knowledge that allows you to look at a situation and work out what's going to happen. In other words, to make driving plans. Now, for a lot of people that comes with time and experience and years behind the wheel and all the rest of it. But you can learn this stuff in a much shorter time if you take part in an advanced driving course of some kind. And let's be clear, driving plans do not have to be complex. They're not complicated blueprints, long lists of things that we're planning to do. They're very, very simple. Check the mirrors. I'm planning to overtake this van. I've checked my mirrors, I've given a signal, I've moved out, and I've formed the plan as to how I'm going to do that before I do it. I'm planning to move back to the near side lane, so I'm going to check the mirrors and move across to the near side lane. That is not complicated. It's very straightforward plans. So as an examiner, when you jump in on your advanced driving test, I will know within a minute or so whether you are making driving plans. Because those people that don't make driving plans arrive at situations and then go, oh, what's happened? And then they sort of tend to revert to the brake and slow down and then wait for ages to work out what to do and then drive through. Whereas drivers who are making driving plans will look at a situation. Here, for example, end of a dual carriageway. They'll appreciate what's happening. They'll check the mirrors, make sure nobody's coming past and that we're not going to get pinched at the end. And they'll also recognise that actually the speed limit as we leave the dual carriageway onto single carriageway drops from 70 to 60. Now this will sound obvious, but in order to make good driving plans, you've got to have good observations. You've got to be able to look a good distance down the road. You've got to be able to work out what's going to happen before you get there. And then you've got to have your plan lined up and put your plan into place as you approach the hazard that you've spotted in the distance. So those 2 skills, those 2 elements are directly linked: observations and planning. So let's look at observations to start with. What do we mean by good observations? How do we carry out good observations? Well, first thing I'd say is I have made several other videos about these subjects previously. I'm going to put the links in the description below. Please go and have a look at those. I think there's one on motorcycling as well, motorcycle observations and planning. The skills are exactly the same, so have a look at those videos. But I'm going to give you a routine that you should try and follow. Now, it's not a rule because, as you know, I try and avoid rules. It's more of a rule of thumb, it's a routine. It's something that you can follow when you're driving. And that routine is how to carry out your observations. And what we do is we start in the far distance. And by the far distance, I mean as far as you can see down the road, or even maybe, you know, through a corner as the road continues past that corner, whatever, as far as you can see down the road. And then we work our way back from it. So I start in the far distance, and I work my way back to the middle distance, then to the foreground, to the area in front of the car. And sometimes it's the sides, sometimes it might be the side mirrors, and then it's the rear. In other words, it's a mirror check. Now what's happened is, as I'm carrying out that observation routine, which takes me, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds to go through the whole thing, the car has moved forward, and depending on how fast the car's moving, it's moved forward, you know, a variable distance, but a considerable distance. So once you've finished with your mirror check, if you then move back to the start of that routine again and look in the far distance, then the view will have changed, and we've got more stuff to take in the far distance. And then the middle distance, and then the foreground, the sides and the rear. And then back to the far distance again. A constant sort of routine. I've described it in the past by asking you to imagine a single piece of track on a tank track, or you know, like a caterpillar type vehicle, a bulldozer, that kind of thing, where it's got a caterpillar track on it. Imagine one piece of that track and imagine how it moves. And it starts at the very front of the track, and then it works its way back, and then it works its way around the rear wheels, and then goes very quickly to the front of the track again, and then works its way back again. That's how I want your observations to work. Now, as I said before, this isn't a rule, it's a rule of thumb, it's some guidance, some guidelines on how to do your observations. So for example, it's no good looking in the far distance when somebody's pulling out of that junction on our left there. That's where I want your attention. And it's no good looking in the very close distance here, which is what most drivers out there do, look in this 2 to 3 car length area in front of the car. It's no good looking there if up ahead there are some temporary traffic lights or stationary vehicles or something that we're driving towards at 60 miles an hour. That's where I want your attention. So, remember one of my favourite words in advanced driving, flexibility. You've got to be flexible in the way that you carry out your observations. But as a general rule, that far distance, mid distance, foreground, sides and rear, that scanning, as it's called in roadcraft, works really well. And it helps you to build up a continual visual picture of the environment around you, and the environment in front and the environment behind, and what's going on, which then allows you to move on to make good driving plans. So let's carry out those observations now for a little bit. Let's just drive for 5 minutes. I'm planning to exit at the next exit, but in the far distance I can see the road bending around to the right. Underneath the bridge I can see an exit off to the left, and that's the exit that we're taking. In the mid distance I can see we're on dual carriageway, the speed limit's increased to 70. We've got a coned off lay-by on the left. In the foreground, nothing much to talk about. Sides, rear, got a van in the distance. And now we've just gone past the 300-yard marker. I'm giving information out with a signal to the left. Now I'm back in the far distance again. I can see the main road bending around to the left, but I can see my exit as well, and the chevron board's indicating a sharp deviation to the left. So position, speed, gears automatic. I'm going to cancel the signal for the time being. I'm in a dedicated lane for turning left here at this first junction, which actually isn't a junction. We have priority. And then we're coming up to a T-junction. In the far distance I can see a T-junction. We're going to turn left at the T-junction. So position, speed, gears automatic, looking to the right, it's clear. It's a give way, not a stop, so we can keep going. In the far distance I can see the road bending round to the left and a change in speed limit down to 30s. In the near distance we've got the bridge, mirror check, there's nothing behind. In the far distance I can see the road continuing to bend round to the left. In the mid distance we've got the parked vehicles, which I'm already moving out for, and behind nothing of note. In the distance I can see the road bending round to the right under a bridge, which might be a pinch point, so I'm wary of large vehicles coming towards us through that bridge, keeping my position to the near side to improve my view. It would be tight if it was anything larger than that van with a trailer. Okay, so in the far distance now, the road is bending round to the right. It's a good wide road, it's still a 30 mph speed limit. We've got parked vehicles on the near side. I'm checking the mirrors and moving out for those parked vehicles just to get a little bit of compliance from the vehicle coming towards us. In the far distance, the road's disappearing over the brow of a hill, but we've got a warning sign on the near side, warning of an 11% descent. Checking the mirrors. There's one van in the far distance behind us, not causing any issues. In the distance I can see Belisha beacons on a zebra crossing, and I can see a junction on the right from which vehicles are emerging onto our road. In the mid distance the road just has a couple of little bends, and there's a warning sign for school crossing patrol in 200 yards. Time of day of the week, it's a Saturday, it's unlikely to be any children, but I'll bear it in mind. Mirror check, there's no vehicles behind. And I'm going to turn right just after the Belisha beacons, just after the zebra crossing. So I'm looking across the bridge into which we're turning, and there's a yellow heavy goods vehicle coming towards us over that bridge. So I might delay me turning to this junction until we're clear of that vehicle. So coming into Appleby now, busy little town, could be some people about, weather's pretty poor, so always bear that in mind with pedestrians, because pedestrians are more inclined to try to not get wet than try to not get run over. So they'll run around with the hoods down, step out into traffic, rush to the destination because they don't want to get wet, and they're less concerned about being run over. We'll move away from these pedestrians here. So looking in the far distance I can see, well, some kind of monument in the middle of the road, isn't there? There's a warning sign off to the left for red squirrels. Speed limit hasn't changed here, it's still a 30, but 30 doesn't feel an appropriate speed, so I'm holding back at 20, and I can see the road bending round to the right. So hopefully now you can see how that process works. I'm not going to carry on doing that all the way through the video, but you can see that I start in the far distance, work my way back. By doing that you get this continual visual picture of what's happening all around us in the most important areas that we need to consider when we're making driving plans. Planning is the second element I'm going to move on to now. So planning. Let's start with the three fundamentals that we base our driving plans on. And they are what we can see, what we can't see, and what we can reasonably expect to happen. So what we can see is obvious, it's what we can see. And I've just told you how to do good observations and improve that information gathering element, that taking information element of the system of car control. So what we can see is what we can see. What we can't see is a bit more subtle though. Now there's lots of things I can't see from here. Can't see the sun today, for example, because it's flipping miserable today. I can't see New York because it's halfway around the globe. And I can't see my house in Bolton. Obviously I can't see those things, but there's no relevance to me. When it comes to planning, here's an example. There's a sign there, one of a junction to the right. I can't see the junction yet, and I can reasonably expect something to come up to that junction and emerge possibly in front of us. So from one bit of information, a sign warning of a junction to the right, I've then gone on to what I can't see the junction yet, but I can reasonably expect a vehicle to come up to that junction and look to emerge onto this road that we're driving at. That's a whole picture of making a driving plan with the three things: what we can see, what we can't see, what we can reasonably expect to happen. So up ahead is a right-hand bend. I can see the bend, I can see the limit point, I can judge my speed going into that bend. Can't see if there's anything coming the other way. So I'm not going to cut the corner. I'm going to keep the position to the near side and drive the long way around the corner. Up ahead, I can see brake lights coming on. I can't see what the car's braking for. So I'm easing off the gas, checking the mirrors and moving my position away from that car to extend my view and give it room for the door to open. Because when I see a car stop like that, quite often the next thing that happens is the door opens. So what you can see, brake lights coming on. What you can't see, the reason for the car stopping, or whether the driver's going to get out, but you can reasonably expect that to happen. Up ahead, there's a junction on the right and a bend to the left. So on approach, I can't see the junction, so I can see the sign, I can't see the junction yet, but I can reasonably expect something to be turning in or out of it. So instead of positioning to the offside as I normally would for a left-hand corner, I'm actually positioning near side to create and increase that safety bubble that we talked about in the last video about positioning. So you should be starting to see now that planning is not complex. It is taking the information and the clues that are out there down the road for you to see, and it's giving you clues. It's like a little game of Cluedo. What can you see? As a result of that, what can you not see that might be relevant to us, and what can you reasonably expect to happen? Now, there's lots and lots of things that we do on the road that require an element of planning. Overtaking is a good example. Go and watch the overtaking video that I did recently, and you'll see that probably 95% of the overtake is in the planning. It's eliminating the risks to you. It's looking to make sure there's nothing there that's going to be a risk. It's looking for the opportunity. It's where to position. It's where to look. It's getting the flexible gear. But you do all of that ahead of the overtake. Actually carrying out the overtake is just moving offside and putting your foot down. That's easy. Most of the work is in the planning phase. Cornering is mostly done on the approach. Your position on approach, adjust your speed on approach, get your gear on approach, all as part of a planned approach. And then all you've got left then to do is turn the wheel and press the gas. That's the plan that you've formed in your mind. The important thing there is we've got a secondary plan as well. We've got a fallback plan in corners, and that is we've got to be able to stop in the distance we can see to be clear. So the other element of planning I want you to bear in mind is that you shouldn't just have one plan for every situation. It's important that we have a secondary plan just in case we've missed something. Because what we said before was we're making plans based on what we can see, what we can't see, and what we can reasonably expect to happen. That doesn't mean we can take everything into account. It doesn't mean that we know everything that's coming up around the next corner. And there's the word reasonably in there as well. What can you reasonably expect to happen? I always used to say we can reasonably expect from the signage here there to be sheep or cattle on the road. Reasonably expecting to be tractors and farm vehicles moving around. Don't reasonably expect there to be a jump jet landed on the road just beyond the crest of this hill. That's going a bit far with your imagination. If you go too far with your imagination, you can end up really crawling along the road, really worried and scared about every single thing that can happen. So it's reasonable. So observations and planning, what are your examiners looking for, and what standard is required for each of the different civilian advanced driving organisations and for the police? Well, let's start with IAM Road Smart, the Institute of Advanced Motorists, and ROSPA. To pass the test or get a bronze or silver, they're looking for reasonably good observations. They're looking for you to be spotting things in advance. Don't forget as well that you can use your commentary to draw your examiner's eye to where you're looking and demonstrate to them that you're looking in the right place. For instance, all the way around this right-hander to the crest of the hill in the distance, and what looks like a white vehicle coming in from the right towards our road. Get that in during commentary, you're really going to demonstrate to your examiner that you're looking in the right place. But planning, if you're making good driving plans, all the other elements of good advanced driving will come out of those plans. You won't be harsh on the brakes, you won't be suddenly swerving to avoid things that you haven't seen. You'll have a nice, smooth, controlled approach to situations. You'll spot speed limits, for example, nice and early, or signs like the cattle grid here nice and early, and you'll have your position, speed and gear sorted well in advance of that situation because you've seen it in advance and you've made your driving plans. That's why it's so important to have good driving plans. So for IAM Road Smart and for ROSPA, good observations, not getting caught out by surprise very often, good driving plans, a good awareness of what's happening behind you, are what's required to pass the test. If you want a ROSPA Gold, or you want to achieve a first at IAM Road Smart Standard, which is the best pass you're going to get on those tests, What we want is very good, accurate, long observations. We want you to see you approaching every situation with a good, clear plan in mind, and a secondary plan that you can put into place if your first plan doesn't go according to plan. Sorry about the weather today, by the way. This is horrendous. But it's an advanced driving channel, isn't it? It shouldn't stop us going out this kind of weather. Got a brand new set of Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's on the rear. We're absolutely fine in this weather. So what about police? What are police looking for with observations and planning? Well, remember, the biggest difference between civilian advanced driving courses and tests and police advanced driving courses and tests is that police officers under training have an exemption from speed limits, and especially on your advanced car course, at some point on your standard car course as well, but definitely on your advanced course, you will be travelling well in excess of the national speed limit, well into 3-figure speeds. And here's the thing, the faster you go, the more difficult it is to look at the things that are close by here. So I'm doing 20 miles an hour here. It's easy to focus on this junction and the signs and the things that are going on. It's easy because we're approaching them slowly and we've got time to take them in. But if you're on a national speed limit A road and you're doing 130, and you will be on your advanced car course and above, the stuff here close by is extremely blurred. You can't focus on it, it's coming at you too fast. So it's even more important at those high speeds that your observations are as far down the road as you possibly can. And the other good reason your observations have to be very long and very accurate on your police advanced car course is when you're up at those high speeds, this will sound obvious, but you arrive at stuff really quickly. Something on the horizon becomes something immediately in front of you extremely quickly. But secondly, it takes you an awful lot longer to stop. But travelling at 130 miles an hour, it's going to take you an awful lot longer to stop. So the things that we need to brake for or stop for, you need to be able to spot them very early. And that will help you make your driving plans early and will allow you to continue at high speed or adjust your speed for something that's happening. I'm going to put another link in the description below specifically for the police advanced driving candidates, and it's a video I made a few years ago on the Autobahn in Germany, where we're driving at sort of 150 plus, 160 plus a couple of times. I want you to go and have a look at that. Look how quickly you arrive at things on that video, but also look how quickly we have to get on the brakes and slow down if I see one lorry moving out to overtake another lorry in the distance. That's the risk when you're travelling at those high speeds. So for police advanced driving course, they are looking for you to have very good, pin sharp, accurate, long observations, and for you to be making good solid driving plans and putting those into place in a timely and accurate manner. One other thing I just want to mention about observations as well, perhaps should have said this at the beginning, but this is really important. Get your eyes checked. Get your eyes checked on a regular basis. I've been short-sighted since I was about 27, 28. It's when I first started to wear glasses. I only wore them for driving to start with, and then it developed to a point where I needed them all the time. And I get my eyes checked every couple of years. At the start of any civilian advanced driving test, the examiner will carry out an eyesight check. And if you fail that eyesight check, we're not going any further. Because I'm not getting in the car with somebody who can't see properly. On your police driving course, that'll be done at the start of the course rather than at the start of the test. So you're usually given a bit of an opportunity to sort any eyesight issues out. But in any case, anybody who's driving should have the best accurate, crisp distance vision that you can possibly get. And if you need glasses for driving or you need contact lenses for driving, make sure you've got them with you on the day of your test. Because I will happily turn you away if you are not up to the standard with your eyesight. And all it is, the eyesight test is nothing more than reading a number plate at 20 metres. It's a normal standard eyesight test, but I've got to be sure that you can see. And if you can't, we're not going out. So that's it for this video about observations and planning. Please go and have a look at the other videos that I've linked in the description below. This video will directly link to the next video, which is about knowledge. We're going to talk there about some of the things you'll be seeing and improving your knowledge around it. For instance, road signs, things like that. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful. Go and have a look at the website, reglocal.com. Loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and motorcycling. Information about the books that I've written and about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me if you fancy a run out. If you do fancy a day's coaching, remember, I have a full-time job, I do it at weekends and I book up quick. So if you want to do something over the summer, drop us an email now. And give us a follow on Twitter as well, @RegLocal. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you found it useful. We'll see you next time.